Today, we're talking about CT scanning once again because an article has been published within the New York Times that I think is pretty spicy, highlights a lot of the hypocrisy going on with this situation, and then also highlights the incompetence from the likes of Fanatics and Panini with this whole situation and what it is they're trying to do to fix the situation. So I'll unpack each of that for you in this video. I'll reference the article and then I want to get your thoughts down below as always. Now, as I sort of mentioned, this article is published within The Athletic as part of the New York Times and talks about CT scanners, and the title is, as you can see, how CT scanners are being used on trading cards, the ethical and legal issues it presents. Now, this was sort of in collaboration with Nick Andrews from Sports Card Madness, who we've referenced many times on the channel, and is a pretty good read. So if you guys haven't seen it, I would encourage you to read it. I'm going to put the link down below. If I forget to do that, just Google, CT scanning New York Times, and you'll find the article. But it goes into quite a lot of detail, and there's quite a lot of quotes in here. But there's a few things, like I said in that intro, that I want to focus in on today because I think it highlights some really important talking points, some hypocrisy, and some shit that needs to be, fixed. And the first of which is the ethics of the situation. Now, when this story first broke, Neo Cards and Comics and I talked about a story out of China when it came to people CT scanning flawless cases, and then off the back of that, a company in the US got wind of it, Industrial Inspection, and they sort of reached out to Rattle Pokemon, and there were some videos there from Rattle. He was the first one to break it from these guys to talk through, why this thing was not good and why Rattle didn't want to collaborate with them. And I sort of just mumbled through that, but essentially the company was looking to collaborate with Rattle Pokemon. Off the back of that, Sports Card Madness did an interview with the company, and that's where things got a bit more mainstream. And one of the things I flagged early on, in particular after that interview with Sports Card Madness, was the ethics of the situation and how the company itself was talking out of both sides of their mouth. They do that again in this article because they talk about the fact that there's a big ethical dilemma here. And that's what the article is also talking about, where it says, the economics are easy, but the dilemma is obviously quite unethical because you've got people, scanning things. And to take a step back, if you're not sure what the whole CT scanning situation is, please check out my other videos. But what it basically is people taking sealed packs of cards, sealed boxes of cards, putting them in a CT scanning machine, scanning it to see what's within those packs. And if they find there's no good cards in there, they go ahead and sell them onto unsuspecting customers, right? That's why it's unethical, because you're selling people dud product. And, that's what this article aims to talk about. And that's what was asked of Industrial Inspection, the company doing the service, in the interview with Sports Card Madness, and they've talked about it again here. And they sort of say that they've had to wrestle with the ethics as a team. Some think differently about it, i.e. some people think it's unethical, some people are saying it's okay. And like I says here, some of us say it is what it is, we can do it. And others say, well, this feels like we're participating in something that is very much in a grey area, which I completely agree with. And they're sort of saying they're still wrestling and working through that situation. They go on to say that I think where we land is that we are data people and we are very good at what we do. And if we're not doing it, somebody else will. And the point there that I said last time, because the same comment was made in that interview that I referenced earlier, was that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. This is incredibly unethical, right? People are only doing this to try and rip people off. There is no, other scenario, and maybe you guys might think there is, but I don't think there is any other scenario in which somebody's doing this to not, dump a bag on somebody else. You're not gonna do this and see there's a good card in there or a bad card in there and then keep it in your collection. That's not gonna happen. And if it does, it's gonna be like one time out of 100. The vast majority of people doing this are doing it because they know they're gonna get a determination on what's in there and they can just dump it on some unsuspecting person at full retail cost, the price of the product. And this is happening with, boxes of cards like Topps Mercury, which was what $10,000 USD. This is, big money you're talking about here. And you're now also seeing lots of, sealed wax end up on eBay. And it's like, hey guys, I wonder why that's happening. People aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart, right? People are doing this because they want to rip unsuspecting people off, because they want to try and find the hits. So anyway, that's the first quote, talking through the fact that they faced an ethical dilemma. They went back and forth. But later on in the article, they talk about the fact that they just wanted to be, or go fast enough to be first to market and make it worth it for people to pay, i.e. they saw the dollar signs and wanted to chase it. Now, the reason why I highlighted these two quotes, and sort of the reason why I used the same talking points following the Sports Card Madness interview they did a few months ago, was the fact that it's like, guys, don't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Just lean into the fact you wanted to make money in the first place. It's a free market. You can do what you want as a business. Don't beat around the bush though. Don't BS to me, but then, your true intentions are trying to make money. It's like, guys, just tell me you want to make money from the get-go. Don't give me this BS sob story. And there might be, some truth to this, but why does this need to be said? Like, if it was truly an ethical issue, you wouldn't have done it in the first place, right? You wouldn't have gone ahead and done it, because you've basically got people, like I just said, really only doing this because they want to try and pump and dump product, right? They want to buy the product and then dump it the second they know nothing's in there and sort of maximize the revenue, right? This is happening across the board in sports cards and also Pokemon. This is not a small thing. This is pretty bloody big. And like I sort of mentioned earlier too, look at all the sealed wax popping up on eBay lately. It's crazily scary, the volumes. And, like I sort of just said, if you thought this was a problem, you wouldn't be doing it. And, to further reiterate that point, there's another quote in this article where they talk about the fact that they don't know the people doing this. They know people are sending in fake names, fake identities, fake emails, and they're still going ahead and doing it. If you wanted to do this from a collector's perspective, you wanted to help breakers, you wanted to do this above board, I'd be tracking and vetting this information, right? Because you wanted to make sure that people aren't going to go ahead and sort of rip people off. And to take a complete step back, one of the things we spoke about in that interview when it first dropped from Sports Card Madness was, okay, if you want to go ahead and offer this as a service, maybe start labeling the boxes to say it was scanned by your company and make it so people can't get rid of it. So then if somebody wanted to use it, they can't go ahead and sell it to someone unsuspectingly, right? But then it came back to the same point. Well, nobody's going to go ahead and use the service in the first place because then it just removes their ability to make money, right? They're not going to go ahead and do that. So, you might say the same thing about tracking customer information, but if you're seeing people come in with fake names and fake emails, you as a business can say, well, they still want to send it in to me, but if they want to send it in to me, they have to tell me their name. That's one control that I'll put in place. But it's like, no, you're knowing that fake emails are coming through, fake names are coming through, and you're still going ahead and bloody doing it. It's like, guys, what are you talking about here when it comes to the ethical dilemma? Like, if you truly cared, you'd be at least try to do what I just said. But no, you're like, okay, they're fake emails. We don't give a shit. We just want to make the money, screw over this industry, screw over this hobby, and we're going to go ahead and forget about it once, the money's all been made and we can't make any more. It's like, mate, truly, again, if you want to do this the right way, you'd be making sure they were vetted. And then again, you still could maybe have a disclosure agreement where you wouldn't disclose that information to people, but at least you're going that extra step to sort of track this information. This is, a big bloody problem. And I don't think people truly realize that, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Now, like I sort of said in the intro, another really important quote from this article is the fact that Fanatics and Panini were reached out to by the New York Times and they declined to comment on the situation, which is really worrying for me. I would have thought these companies would have been on the front foot. Like, all they really had to say was that they are looking into it and trying to fix it. You've got a quote over here that, people inside Fanatics Collectibles told The Athletic, told the New York Times that, while we believe CT scanners aren't currently being widely utilized, we take any issue that potentially harms collectors very seriously. As such, we are working on innovations and solutions to address the issue. The reason why this is interesting is because it's not a direct quote. Like, it is a direct quote, but the person's not quoted, so it's obviously, an anonymous source. But just one of those ones that I think, again, just highlights the concerns with this process, right? These companies, irrespective of whether they think it's super mainstream or not, need to get on the front foot here and say, okay, this whole situation is effed up. We need to fix it. This is what we're trying to do. Like, come to the market with some information, right? Don't look like you're doing nothing, which is what these two quotes here are sort of saying. So I just thought those things in particular were really interesting within this article. I want to hear your thoughts down below. Like I said, these quotes that I sort of mentioned about the ethics of the situation, I just think that's, peak hypocrisy. If you truly gave a shit, you wouldn't be doing it in the first place. And then if you wanted people to believe that you truly gave a shit, then you would have had some things in place to track some of this stuff. The second I read the fact that fake emails and fake names and fake phone numbers were coming through, I was like, hey, that tells me all I need to know. These guys don't give a shit. They can say they do, but when you sort of see those quotes in the article, when you see the fake names, fake emails, it's like, guys, that's painfully obvious to me. And maybe I'm off base by that situation, and maybe there are things that they could be doing better they're not truly realizing right now, but I would have thought that stuff would have been thought through from the get-go. I think we go back to the original quote with Sports Card Madness, and there were some things in there mentioned around they were actively trying to work on ways to sort of track this and ways they could maybe identify which packs have been scanned historically and all that kind of thing, and maybe do the thing that I mentioned earlier, putting labels on there and stuff. But again, if you wanted to do that and you thought that was much needed to do, don't offer the service until those things were in place. I just don't like this whole situation. I think the thing stinks. I think it's a lot bigger than what people are making out. I think when you've got breakers like Jeff Wilson coming out and saying it's a tiny problem, it's only impacting the 1% of the situation, 99% of sealed wax is fine, I think is what Jeff came out and said. I think that's absurd. And what you guys need to be doing in a situation like that is sitting back and saying, well, why would he say that? What are his vested interests? And clearly he owns a card store. He has a breaking platform. He's selling crap. Well, not breaking platform, but he sells on breaking platforms is what I meant to say. he's got a vested interest to make sure that the confidence in sealed wax remains. So when you see opinions like that from him, you got to basically throw it out the window. You got to be listening to people that are coming to you truthfully. And there are breakers out there talking about the fact that this is concerning for them. So just keep that in mind when you're sort of seeing this stuff pop off. It's just a really, crazy situation. I think this is a lot bigger than what people are making out. And it's one of those ones that I think we're going to see a solution from a Fanatics probably in the next 6 to 12 months, if not sooner. And the fact that they're not doing it right now is, or not coming out and talking about it right now is a bit concerning for me as well. So anyway, I went on a ramble there towards the end. I was going to say something else about industrial inspection, the company doing it, but I'll sort of leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below. Apologies for being scatterbrains in this one, guys. So yeah, that's it. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.